Good evening, everyone. Welcome to
Take two.
Yes, this is what Stacie and I do for you every Tuesday night. From 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we come to you live from the auditorium of our church, the Sanctuary in Jupiter, Florida, and we come to you wherever you may be. Some people watch it live, some people watch it later, depending on what time zone they're in and what they're doing and all of that sort of thing. So welcome. We're glad you're here with us. Let us know in the comments section where you're watching from. We love to see that stuff. And also let us know if you are watching this live or if you are watching this later. That helps us figure some stuff out also. So, honey?
Yeah.
How's it going?
It's great. It's
Yeah?
going fabulous.
Good.
Yeah, it's a great week so far.
It's young. The week is young. A lot of bad stuff can still happen.
A lot of bad stuff has happened already this week for people. Yeah.
Oh, my
But
goodness.
not, yeah.
Well, okay, so talk for a little bit so I can drink my coffee.
Okay. Well,
It's great having a co-host.
well, we are like moving along in church planning for stuff, and we're still talking about the summer and like what that will be. And we were just talking about, we won't do take two for a while during the summer.
Yeah, we will
Sadly.
stop this for 2 months. We're stopping everything except Sunday morning worship services for the summer months to give everybody a little bit of a break, including you, to give you a break from us. So yeah, we're stopping that sometime at the middle of June, I think. So we've got about another month of this before we take a break for the summer.
Yep.
Okay, planning is going on. We had our staff meeting today, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. Exciting stuff.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah, the church is moving right along. We're excited about the things that are happening, the things that we're planning for. Summertime is always weird for churches, as many of you probably know. If you've either led in a church or spent time in a church over the summer months, I don't know about you, but any church I have ever served in, because people are traveling, churches sometimes feel a little bit like a ghost town in the summer months, which is not necessarily a bad thing because it means everybody's sort of taking a break and doing stuff with family, and we're going to do the same thing. We have theoretical summer plans, but we don't have real summer plans. So I think part of the plan is that we are going to go to Texas to see Stacie's family. All of them live in Texas.
That's right.
So we're going to go to Texas. And then we've discussed a couple of other possibilities of places that just her and I would go. As much as I'm looking forward to going to Texas, because that was the place we lived the first year we were married. So it's a little bit like walking down memory lane for me.
It's a lot like walking down memory lane for me.
Right.
Since my whole life has been there.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
And we get to see her family. And she and I thoroughly enjoy being around her family. It's a great thing to be able to say that about your spouse's family, that you really love being around them. I love being around them. But we've talked about some possibilities of places where you and I might just go.
Yes. Yeah.
So if you have any ideas
I'm excited about
what Stacie and I might be able to do together as a little getaway, let us know. We have no money,
right.
So let us know.
It has to be completely free.
It has to be completely free.
But amazing.
But amazing, right. It has to be the equivalent of going to like Fiji or Bali, but for no cost at all.
Like a shoestring budget.
Right, so let us know if you have any bright ideas. Or if any of you...
And there can be no COVID restrictions wherever we go also.
So if any of you, for instance, like have a vacation home in a beautiful remote part of this world on an ocean where there's nobody, let us know. We'd be happy to go house sit for you for a week.
Right.
So yeah, we're kind of making summer plans, and we've got a whole host of things that we are winding down toward here at the church. I have another 5 weeks left of this current sermon series, Irreligious. There are events being planned for our church over the summer. Our student ministry is being relaunched in the beginning of June, which is just in time for the summer months.
That's right.
But let us know in the comment section. Let us know what your summer plans are. If you have any summer plans, let us know what they are. It might stimulate some ideas for Stacie and me as we think about.
I do want to say there are a lot of people, speaking of my family in Texas, I posted a prayer request for my uncle last Wednesday evening, I think it was, or Thursday. Actually, I posted it on Thursday, but he and my aunt found out that he has cancer on Wednesday. He was in the hospital from Sunday to Wednesday last week. Found out he has cancer. Today was his appointment to schedule his surgery to have his kidney removed. I have not yet heard from them today. And but all of the prayers that were posted on our prayer wall, if you're not a part of the Sanctuary prayer wall, it's on Facebook. So you have to go to the Sanctuary's Facebook page, and then it's a group within the Sanctuary's Facebook page. It's the prayer wall. And the prayers that were posted there were just really wonderful. And it's just, it's always encouraging to have just, a group of people pray with you for something, but to read people's prayers and know that people are praying for whatever our needs are, not just meaning just our.
But praying specifically for your Uncle Sean.
I just, you guys are really good about praying for different needs that people post in there. And I just want to encourage you to continue to be a part of that, because it's really important work. And I appreciate it very much. And I know my aunt and uncle do. And so I thank you guys.
I haven't been on the Sanctuary prayer wall to read those prayers.
Well, you should spend some time doing that. It's very
I might.
encouraging.
Well, I mean, no, I've been on there to read prayer requests, but the
Right.
specific prayers you're talking about for your uncle, I did not
They were
see.
really great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, for those of you who may have written a prayer for her uncle, thank you very much. That is very kind. And some of the prayers, I'm assuming, came from people that we don't know.
100%. And they don't know my uncle.
Right.
So I just think that it's prayers are important.
Yeah.
And we are a praying church, and we hold that up as an important task to do here. And so, that's no small thing that you guys posted a prayer,
thank
or
you.
even just put your prayer hands. I mean, just to acknowledge it is a big thing. So
Yeah. That's awesome.
yeah.
Okay, so what else can we talk about for a few minutes before we dive into last week's sermon?
Well,
Something global, something massive, something super exciting that's going to get everybody really excited about what we're about to say. Anything like that? Come on, the pressure's on. What can you say that will
my
excite
life is
us
so
all?
boring, right? My life is so boring. Samuel Down is coming this weekend to
All
be
right.
our worship leader. Like, I don't have we just church.
I can talk about something exciting. The Dallas Cowboys football schedule for this year just came out, and thanks be to God, this is another proof that there is a God. They have the second easiest schedule of anybody in the NFL. So if they don't make it all the way to the Super Bowl this year, they have zero excuses. Zero. As
they had an easy schedule before they have in recent years, and I'm like,
I don't
come
know
on,
about
guys.
that. I do know this, that if you care about me, if you like me, not even if you love me, if you like me, if you have any disposition toward me at all that is kind, then I would ask you to please pray that
The Dallas Cowboys
Cowboys would
win
be
the
successful this season.
I want to pray. What is it? I'm just going to pray big or go home. I want you to pray for the Dallas Cowboys to make it to the big game, to the Super Bowl. It would mean
Well,
so much.
we're really digging on the bottom of the barrel here, trying to come up with
See
stuff to
what
talk
God's
about.
all about this
I mean,
year.
okay, let's see. What else can we talk about? I found a dead cockroach in
Nice.
our guest room sink. a little bit before we came here. I don't know if you heard me go, that's disgusting, from the
No.
guest bathroom.
No, but
You were
that-
getting ready, and I went into that bathroom for a second to wash my hands, and I looked down into the sink, and there was a cockroach upside down on his back, dead.
Well, then our pesticide works.
But
so
I was
that's
like,
good.
this is disgusting. So I grabbed some toilet paper, picked it up, crunched it in my hand just to ensure that it was dead, threw it in the toilet, and flushed it down.
Amazing.
Now that's
great.
exciting stuff. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking
That's what
about
you
right
meant?
there.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Well, I
that's
cleaned
stuff.
house yesterday, so
Yes,
we could talk
Stacie
about
did.
all those things.
I was in Fort Lauderdale all day yesterday, most of the day yesterday, with my son Nate. I go down there once a week, and he and I work out, and then we hang out a bit, go to dinner. Maybe me and some of his friends go to dinner, and then I drive back to Jupiter. It's about a 50-minute drive. And while I was gone, Stacie cleaned the house. I
Praise
mean,
God.
yes. I mean, I was beginning to doubt her
the
domestic
Lord
capabilities.
works in mysterious ways.
She texted me and she said, I cleaned. She gave me this whole list of things she cleaned, and she said, but I didn't get to the
Showers.
I didn't get to the shower, and I'd like, get to clean the
I didn't
shower.
clean the shower.
And I just texted back. I said, OMG, I cannot believe you didn't get to clean the shower.
Right.
I won't be home for 45 minutes. You still have time.
Right. On my day off, that's what I did.
So you just FYI, you missed a cockroach in the
I think I got
guest
him
room sink.
because I put out pesticides. So
Did you?
Clearly, what I did worked.
You did?
Yeah.
Really? That's
Yes.
awesome. So you're responsible for the death of that cockroach. Congratulations, honey.
I mean, it's amazing.
Better dead than alive, that thing in our house.
Jeez.
Let me ask you guys a question, okay? And then we'll get into some real spiritual stuff here. We had a little discussion the other day about I hate rats and I hate snakes, okay? I mean, I can handle just about anything, but rats and snakes are disgusting to me. We were having a little discussion with my brother Anthony and his friend Emily, who were visiting us on Sunday, about what we hate worse, rats or snakes. And it's a toss-up for me, but I think I would rather deal with a snake than a rat.
No.
Stacie would rather deal with a rat than a snake.
Yes.
And I don't remember what Anthony or Emily said, but why don't you
I mean,
let
I
us
don't
know?
want to deal with either,
Right.
but if I had to choose, yeah.
Stacie does get freaked out at snakes. I've been with her on one or two occasions when a snake is like slithered in front of us, and she almost jumps onto my shoulders. She gets freaked out with snakes. And the ones that she gets freaked out about are about this long. So I can't imagine if she actually encountered like
One that was
a
that
huge
long
rattlesnake.
was a coral snake. It was a coral snake, and I was walking barefoot into our house.
There are only a few.
I can't imagine
There are only
why
a
I got
few
freaked
poisonous snakes in Florida, and a coral snake is one of them.
Right. I've grown up in Texas running around barefoot with snakes my whole life. I got the snake eye, and if I see something move, I'm running, or it's going down. Like something
But
is
snakes
happening.
take care of rats. That's why I would rather have a snake
Some
around.
snakes do. Like some snakes are trying to take care of me. Like,
You mean take care of you in the sense that they want to eat you?
Yeah.
There aren't any
they
snakes in
wanna
Florida
bite
that
me and,
can
like, be
eat you, honey.
aggressive.
I mean, you have to go to like Africa and encounter like what do you call it? What are those
No.
big ones? The massive ones?
yeah, anaconda.
Anacondas. Now that can eat you, but nothing
Right,
else
I'm not-
can.
No, but they can attack you.
They can bite you.
They can't. They can attack you because they're scared.
So
Because
just
they're shedding their skin. and
humor
they can't
us.
see.
Humor us. What do you hate worse, rats or snakes?
If
No.
you have to choose, you can only choose one.
Right. Okay.
And with that said,
Now,
let's talk about
that's
the
a
sheep.
perfect segue into my sermon this past week. I have been making my way through various episodes in the Gospels, and in a series that I've entitled Irreligious. And throughout this series, I've been comparing and contrasting Christianity and religion. And I know, because people have pointed this out, and I made it clear in the first sermon that I preach in this series, that the word religion is used both positively and negatively in the Bible. It's actually used more negatively than it is positively in the Bible. And for the purposes of this series, and for the purposes of comparing and contrasting religion and Christianity, I have been using the word in an exclusively negative way through the series. And so I've been showing how religion is primarily about keeping a moral code, whereas Christianity is primarily about a God who saves people that fail to keep the moral code. That religion is primarily about us, what we do, our work, our performance for God. Christianity is primarily about Jesus, his work, and his performance for us. So we are the focus of religion. Jesus is the focus of Christianity. Religion is very much bottom up. It's about our climb to God, whereas Christianity is very much top down. It's about God's descent to us in the person of Jesus. And so we've been looking at different episodes in the Gospels where Jesus himself compares Christianity and religion, or religion in the way that I've defined it. You could substitute the word religion for our purposes with legalism, performancism, those sorts of things. And so we've been doing that. And this past week, I looked at the first 10 verses of Luke chapter 15. Luke chapter 15 is that chapter in Luke where Jesus tells three parables. He tells the parable of the lost sheep, the parable of the lost coin, and the parable of the lost son, or in some translations, the parable of the prodigal son. And we looked at the first two parables this past week, the parable of the lost sheep and the parable of the lost coin. And I said at the beginning of my sermon that my opening comments were really going to focus on verses 1 and verse 2, because in those two verses, the context for the reason why Jesus tells those three parables is set up for us. And the first thing that it says, oh, you've got it right there. Perfect.
I do.
Thank you. So these are the first two verses. These are, interestingly, two of my favorite verses in the Bible, because it's such a stark and sharp contrast between Jesus and what's important to God, and the religious leaders and what's important to them. The first two verses say, "Now the tax collectors and sinners were all drawing near to him," speaking of Jesus. "And the Pharisees and the scribes grumbled, saying, 'This man receives sinners and eats with them.'" And I made the point at the beginning of my sermon that there are two kinds of people being described in these two verses. In verse 1, what's described are the kinds of people who are attracted to Jesus: social and moral outcasts, spiritual outsiders, people with bad religious resumes. And I said on Sunday morning that if we're not attracting the same kinds of people that Jesus attracted, then we're not preaching the same message that Jesus preached. The second thing to notice in verse 2 are the kinds of people who were appalled at Jesus. Religious people, spiritual insiders, people with impressive moral and spiritual resumes. Those were the kind of people who were appalled at Jesus. They were disgusted by the fact that this so-called man of God would embrace such filthy people, that he would be friends with people who were moral outcasts, people who were looked down on from a spiritual and moral standpoint. And I mentioned that religious people will always grumble about grace, because religion works on a hierarchical system in which people or groups are ranked one above the other based on status. And this is why religionists are allergic to grace, really. Because religion operates with an us versus them mentality. We are better than them. We are more spiritual than them. We are more deserving than them. We are more right than them. We are more important than them, and so on and so forth. That's why the religious leaders described in verse 2 were disgusted. They couldn't believe. In fact, they were convinced that Jesus was an absolute imposter, because God, a real man of God, would never ever associate with the kinds of people that Jesus associated with. And so I said that on Sunday, I said that even here in these first two verses, we see this huge comparison, this contrast between Christianity and religion, between God and what's important to God, and the kinds of people who are attracted to God, and religion. And so that's the way it started. I could have preached an entire sermon on those 2 verses, but I just sort of opened up the sermon making some comments about that. And then we got into the 2 parables, which we are now going to discuss. The parable of the lost sheep and the parable of the lost coin. And I kind of did them, I said specific things about each one, but I kind of bunched them together because the point is the same.
Right.
Jesus is making the same point. He's making the same point. He's just using 2 illustrations to do it.
And I think you said this towards maybe the end of your sermon, that if this was like a sermon on its own, that you would entitle it, I once was found, but now I'm lost.
Yes.
Which goes along with what Jesus was saying in this, which is your ultimate point that you were trying to make, which is that as Christians, we can get lost. That this was not, these are not 2 parables and 2 stories, 2 examples of as how Christians we should go out and seek and save the lost as a Christian, like that's our commission. Like, well, you need to go out and find those people who are lost sheep or the lost coin, like that we need to do that. And that I think it's important to make sure we always know context is king and who God wants us to identify with in any story in the Bible, any passage in the Bible.
Yeah.
And you made the point clear of who we are to identify with in this story.
Yeah, let me read a couple lines. I have my notes in front of me. Let me read a couple of lines. I said that when I was growing up, the parables of the lost sheep and the lost coin in Luke 15 were explained to me as parables of evangelism. And what I mean by that is this. I was told these parables were Jesus's way to describe the lengths to which we should go to reach people who aren't Christians. Every time the parable of the lost sheep or the parable of the lost coin, the parable of the lost sheep is, Jesus says, which one of you, if you have 100 sheep and one gets lost and goes off and gets lost, won't leave the 99 and go after the one? Or which one of you, if you've lost a coin, won't turn your house upside down to find it? And so these parables were always explained to me as job descriptions for us, evangelistic job descriptions for us, that what Jesus is doing here is he's teaching us the lengths and the depths that we ought to go to bring people to Jesus, to seek and save the lost. And I said that while that's an understandable, to a certain degree, interpretation of these parables, that it's inaccurate. And here's why it's inaccurate. Rather than these parables being about God's job description for us, what they actually reveal is God's tireless commitment to constantly come after those who once were found but now are lost. To put it bluntly, and this is what I said Sunday morning, these aren't parables about found people pursuing lost people. These are parables about God pursuing found people who get lost. And here's the proof that that's the right interpretation. In both cases, the lost sheep and the lost coin were at one time not lost. The lost sheep was in the fold, and the lost coin was in the pocket. The lost sheep wandered off, and the lost coin was misplaced. But the point is that neither started off lost. So to interpret these parables the way I was taught growing up is to misinterpret them. Now you say, okay, that's fascinating. That's really interesting. That's sort of a turn on the interpretation that it sort of flips it around, and it's intriguing to look at it that way. Wow, I had a lot of people say that on Sunday. I've never thought about the parables these 2 parables that way. I used to think about them the way that you were taught, but now it makes sense. So I get all that. But why is it important that we understand them correctly? The reason it's important that we understand them correctly is because the former interpretation assumes that Christian people, the found people, don't get lost. And the sobering point that I made on Sunday is that just because you're a Christian doesn't mean you don't wander off. In fact, we wander off all the time. As Christians, we get lost all the time. We wander off, we go in our own direction, we do our own thing, we walk away from God, and 70 times 7, God comes after us. 70 times 7, the good shepherd always comes after his wandering sheep. Always, always, always. And so that's why I said if I were to title this sermon, I would have titled it, I once was found, but now I'm lost, which is kind of a flip on the line from Amazing Grace. I once was lost, but now I'm found, which is also true when you're talking about salvation. But once we become Christians, once God saves us, we get lost also. That's when found people get lost. And, we could sit here and talk all night about ways you and I, over the course of our lives, have gotten lost as Christians. And I think, the reason it's so important, and I said this, let me see if I can find my notes. Here's one of the reasons why it's so important. Unless we have a biblical category of Christian lostness, that Christians can also get lost. All we are left with when a Christian wanders off into the far country and gets lost is to doubt whether they were ever found in the first place. So maybe you have a friend or a family member and they have professed to be a Christian at some point in their life, and they've just kind of wandered off. And if we don't have this category in our brain, this biblical category that Christians can wander off and get lost too, all we're left with is to just doubt whether they were ever found in the first place. So without a category of Christian lostness, what we often hear is that when a professing Christian goes off into the dark, it can only mean that they were never in the light to begin with. And I shared on Sunday morning that in 2015, when my life came crashing down as a result of my own sin and selfishness, it was very public. A lot of people knew about it in the Christian world. And there were a lot of people out there speculating as to whether or not I was even a Christian. After all, how could a Christian actually do this or fail or fall in this way? And the reason that was the only option they had is because there was no category for Christian lostness,
right,
that Christians can get lost. The Bible's very realistic when it speaks about humans in general, but Christians, that Christians get lost, Christians sin. I said on Sunday that if your understanding of the Christian life does not have room for the fact that your greatest failure may be in front of you, then scrap it, because there are plenty of examples in the Bible of people who were genuinely saved by God who screwed up royally and big after they became Christians. So to think that once I become a Christian, my worst failures are behind me, and it's only, rainbows and butterflies from this point forward is just simply not true. And many of you could testify to that. You can testify to that. I can testify to that.
I was just going to say, I think it's, you're talking about a lostness as a Christian that you had that was very big and public and extreme. And I think that not all of our lostness as a Christian it's not all that big. So I don't think that you're just...
Go back and listen to the sermon.
Right. I don't know if these people watched it, so that's why I'm saying this, because they should have. You should have watched the sermon. But, our Christian lostness, I was just thinking about so many different commentaries that I've read on Jesus being the good shepherd and the description of sheep in general and how absolutely stupid they are. They are just 100% dumb and helpless, and they don't know that they're dumb and helpless, and they just do stupid stuff all the time. And these shepherds literally risk their lives to care for these flocks of sheep. And so just to think about some of the ways that we get lost as Christians, when we can think that we're co-shepherding, as we used to hear these parables, like if we're like co-shepherds with Jesus, so we're going to like also go evangelize to people, and it's our job to go seek and save the lost. Like that in and of itself is a Christian being lost in our role of what we're really supposed to be doing. And Pharisees and are always doing that.
Now, let me clarify what my wife is not saying.
Okay.
She's not saying that it is unimportant to share Jesus with people
That's
who
right.
need to hear it. Okay,
Right.
evangelism, my granddad devoted his life to it.
That's
It
right.
is a worthy calling. It is something God calls all Christians to do,
100%.
to be ready to share their
It's
faith.
what our mantra of this church is. We exist to declare and deliver the boundless love of God to a broken world.
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
so
that's not it, but we can
we
interpret.
can't save. We're not. While we may be the tool in which God uses to bring about salvation, we don't save anybody.
Right.
We can't save anybody. Only God can open blind eyes and soften a hard heart and raise someone from death to life.
But
Only God can do
even
that.
it with like my uncle found out he has cancer. So I can't imagine. I have a little glimpse of maybe what my aunt felt and my uncle felt when they got that news. And even in our moments like that, where we immediately feel fear and the unknown and doubt and, just like whatever we are doing other than fully depending on God, which we're not going to do because we're human. That's a little form, like when we have that doubt, like that's a form of our Christian lostness, like where God goes and Jesus comes and reminds us, like, I have you, I've got that, I'm taking care of them. I oversee this, I'm in charge, I'll go find them. I know they're lost, I'm going to get them, I'll bring them home.
Let me give you some lines from this Sunday that will help you understand the whole concept of what it looks like to get lost as a Christian. Putting trust in yourself and what you can do rather than God and what he's done for you. We do that every time, all the time. Any form of unbelief. All sin has its roots in unbelief.
Right.
All sin does. And any form of unbelief or any sin in thought, word, or deed is a form of wandering off. So if you are a sinner, a saved sinner, then you get lost every day in ways that you're conscious of and ways you're not conscious of. Here's some specific ways that I mentioned on Sunday. We often get lost in our pursuit of meaning or love or purpose or importance. We get lost in our dependence on people and things to save us from loneliness and insecurity and a sense of inadequacy. We get lost when hopes and dreams crash and burn, when one of our children goes off the deep end, when our parents get divorced, when a marriage fails, when she breaks up with you, when you don't get the job you want or you don't get into the school you want. We get lost in our secrets, in our anger, in our hurt, in our bitterness, in our pleasure, in our unforgiveness, in our pride, our self-pity, our lust, our thirst for credit, the need to be right, and so on and so forth. I mean, I could go on and on and on.
We are lost in like our practice. And I think this is a huge distinction that you make in the sermon, but I've seen you make it lately in comments on social media. Because when you say this, and you say as a Christian, because we still have a sin issue horizontally on this earth that we're dealing with, we can get lost. And people mistake you for saying that our identity is a sinner. Like, we're not sinners anymore. We can't get lost. We can't do that. Or, we don't have that problem. We do have a sin problem still. Jesus has solved it eternally, and our identity is in Christ. But we are identifying the fact that we have sin that we have to deal with in our lives and in other people, in ourselves and in the people all around us, everywhere. There's no one void of it here. So we're not dealing with it in some way. And identifying sin and saying I'm identifying myself as a sinner are two different things. And I just think that you always are having to explain that.
On the inside of both arms, I have tattooed a phrase that helped me when I first encountered it, and as a 23-year-old college student. I was a late bloomer educationally.
It says, I love the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, and it's a Latin phrase that was coined by Martin Luther that has always helped me understand the tension we all feel as Christians who still struggle with sin. And he said that Christians are simul justus et peccator, which simply means we are simultaneously just, saved, and sinner. So what he meant was at one and the same time, we are justified and sinner. That at one and the same time, we are saint and sinner. Now, what he means by that, and it has to be articulated this way or else people get confused. People hear that and they go, well, but that sinner is no longer our identity. I said, that phrase doesn't say that sinner is our identity. No. Here's what it means. Positionally, before God, because of what Jesus has done, we are a saint. The word saint is the indicator of our identity. Before God, we are clothed in the righteousness of Christ because of what Jesus has done for us, and we are now in Christ. We are beloved by God. We are clothed in his perfect righteousness. That is our identity. So positionally, we are saint. Practically, we are sinner. And that can be proven just by the very fact that we sin every day, okay? The word sinner, as it describes the Christian, is not describing the Christian's core identity, the fundamental identity. That's been solidified before God because of what Jesus has done. It is accurately describing our life horizontally, our life on the ground, our daily life as we struggle with the world, the flesh, and the devil. Paul, the Apostle Paul, described this beautifully and tragically in Romans chapter 7. The things that I want to do, I don't do. And the things that I don't want to do, those are the things that I keep doing. And he goes on and on to describe this struggle in Romans 7 about how he knows what's right because he's been saved by God. His eyes have been opened. He's been regenerated. I know what's right, but there's something in me that keeps wanting to do wrong. And so he's describing this battle, this war that goes on inside of him. And that's Paul giving voice to simul justus et peccator, the way life feels on the ground. Some people say that in Romans chapter 7, Paul's describing himself before he was a Christian. Like, this is not a struggle that Christians have. This is only a struggle before you're a Christian. Now, there are a whole host of reasons why I think exegetically and theologically that doesn't make any sense at all. It doesn't make sense experientially either. But theologically and exegetically, you can't make that case from Romans 7 because one thing that a Christian has that a non-Christian doesn't is an awareness of what God wants, an awareness of what God loves and what God hates. So the Apostle Paul would never be able to say, if he wasn't a Christian, the things I know I should do, I don't do, and the things I know I shouldn't do, I keep on doing. He wouldn't have the categories of what I should and shouldn't do if he weren't a Christian.
Because isn't it also Paul that said, I only know I sin because of the fall? Like it convicted him of that.
Yes.
And he couldn't have known that.
Right. He talks about that.
You would just not be, before, I didn't even know I was sinning.
Right.
I wasn't convicted of any of this.
Right.
And now I do know.
Right.
And
because
so
he's a Christian.
He's claiming to struggle.
Right. Because he's a Christian.
Because
and the
he's a
point
Christian.
is that we are at one and the same time, just our identity, our core identity is not based on what we do or fail to do. It's based on what Jesus has done for us. So before God, we are a saint. We are seen through the lens of Christ's perfect righteousness. But practically and on the ground of life, we are sinful. I mean, that's just obvious. In fact, 1 John says, if you claim to have no sin, the truth is not in you. Only Christians actually are able to acknowledge that they're sinners.
Right.
I mean, they're one of the marks of a Christian is their awareness of their sin. Before God saved you, you weren't even aware of it. I mean, I can testify to that in my own life. That
the reason we go to Christ is because we realize we need a Savior.
I mean, I can remember literally being, God saved me when I was 21 years old. And before that, I was a wild man, like a wild man. And I thoroughly enjoyed being a wild man. I loved everything this world had to offer. I mean, I drank as deep as I could from the deepest wells that this world had to offer. And of course, those wells become dry cisterns over time. The Bible says that sin is pleasurable for a season, but when that season comes to an end, you're left with a gaping hole in your soul that only God is big enough to fill. And for me, that season came to an end at 21 years old. It wasn't one particular event or one particular crisis. It was just this culminating sense that this is no longer satisfying anymore. All of this stuff that the world's telling me to pursue and do to make life exciting and happy is actually making me depressed now. Life is getting dry and boring and lonely. And so I cried out to God for help. And God saved me. He raised me from death to life. And I remember for a short period of time, I still wanted to do the old things that I used to do, like some of the really bad stuff that I used to do. And I couldn't enjoy it anymore the way that I used to. And I remember distinctly certain times going, God, leave me alone for an hour so that I can enjoy this thing that I used to enjoy so much. One of the marks of a Christian is this awareness of your sin, that you are a sinner. Non-Christians don't know that. People who haven't been raised from death to life by God don't know that. So all that to say is because we still sin, even as Christians, that's just another way of saying we constantly get lost as Christians in a variety of different ways. We wander off, and every single time, and that's the beauty of these parables, the absolute beauty of these parables, which is where we ended up landing. The beauty of these parables is that they are a description of a God who comes after those of us who get lost 70 times 7. 70 times 7, God comes after us.
And that he rejoices over that.
Yes.
He rejoices over doing the thing that he loves to do, which is find us, and you say that.
When we foolishly wander off, the good shepherd comes after us, picks us up, puts us over his shoulders, and carries us home every single time. He meets our guilt with his grace, our mess with his mercy, our faults with his forgiveness, every time. Every time. And like Stacie just mentioned, he never chides us for getting lost. He seeks us, he finds us, he rejoices, and he throws us a party. And so I love this picture of Jesus in the first parable leaving the 99, or the shepherd, the Jesus figure in the parable, leaving the 99 to go after the one, because it really is a description of Jesus's mission in parabolic form. I mean,
his rescue mission
right.
for us.
It is a picture, it's a parable about the cosmic lengths to which Jesus goes to find you over and over and over and over again. He's constantly, regardless of how far you run or where you go or how stubborn your roaming may be, he will never stop coming for you. That's just how amazingly gracious he is. So these parables are a picture of the way God comes after you, the way God comes after me all the time. And so it's filled with good news. It's a beautiful picture of an amazingly gracious God, and it takes into account this idea that even as Christians, we're constantly falling away and failing and all of those things. We're wandering off. We're meandering about. We always think we can do it better if we can just do it on our own. Constantly, we try to take matters into our own hands. We try to control outcomes. We try to manipulate circumstances. We have a hard time trusting the shepherd. We have an easier time trusting ourselves. And every time we do that, it's an example of the ways in which we get lost. And I said it today in a staff meeting that, and this is next week, the parable of the prodigal son, that flight from God always leads to the pigsty. Always. You can't run from God and enjoy the primary purpose for which you were created. You can't. It's impossible. And so we're constantly fleeing from God in ways that we are aware of and in ways that we're unaware of. And these two parables are, like I said, not a job description of us for us to go out and get lost people, found people to get lost people. It's a job, it's really showing us God who goes after found people like us who get lost along the way. And, Stacie and I could tell you 100 stories, personal stories of ways in which we, as Christians over the last 40 some odd years that we've been on this earth, have just gotten lost, wandered away in small ways, like you mentioned, in big ways, like I mentioned, and in 1,000 ways in between. So, great parables. Great parables. I really do too. I really love parables are at times confusing. Some of them can be very difficult to understand. It's always interesting to me that when Jesus' disciples said, "Why do you speak in parables?" And Jesus' answer was, "Because I don't want everyone to understand."
Well, right. I mean, we don't need to know everything. We need to know what he lets us know and understand.
Yeah.
We can't know everything.
Yeah. Okay, well, you were looking at something, so what have you found? We're at that section of the...
I was going to our questions from viewers.
Before you do,
Okay.
usually the last 10, 15 minutes, if this is your first time joining us, we answer questions that you submit during the week. And if you want to submit a question that you would like us to answer, it could be a theological question, a personal question, a practical question, whatever. There's a form at the top of this live stream that you can click, and it'll take you to, there's a link that you can click, and it'll take you to a form where you can submit a question or a comment, and we might get to it live next week. But that's what we're doing now. So what do you got, honey?
Well, you may not want to answer it, but...
Okay, this comes from Isaiah, and he says, "Hi, Tullian. If you could sum up how God has truly impacted your life in 3 words, what would they be?" I just keep thinking of the Grinch. Stink, stank, stunk. Let's see. If I could come up with 3 words to describe, that's my favorite Christmas song, by the way, is the Grinch song. Oh my gosh, the creativity of that song is absolutely brilliant. This is the way I'll answer that. If I could use 3 words to describe how I feel about God and his work in my life, it would be immense gratitude. I'm not sure I can use 3 words. I'll use 3 phrases.
you said 3 words. That you
Sorry, Isaiah. I make the rules. I break the rules.
Sum up.
How would you like me to answer the question, honey?
You said it. Just 3 words.
I'm not coming up with 3 words. I'll tell you something better than 3 words.
Okay.
It never ceases to amaze me how faithful God has been to me and is in the face of my eternal undeservedness. At no point in time have I deserved God's care, his attention, and his faithfulness to me. I have been faithless. He has remained faithful, and that never ceases to amaze me. I am incredibly thankful for the fact that he has never stopped coming after me to go along with the parables that we just talked about. I mean, I'm acutely aware of my propensity to wander off, Prone to wander, Lord, I feel it. Prone to leave the God I love. Take my heart, oh, take and seal it. Seal it for thy courts above. I mean, that's the story of my life from the time I came into this world. So I said it on Sunday, his pursuant love is mugging in nature. And I have experienced that time and time again. And quite honestly, he's the best friend I've ever had. I've treated him like crap sometimes. I've treated him like crap a lot of times. I have begged him to leave me alone. I've cussed him out. I have been selfish with the gifts that he's given me. I have squandered so much that he's done for me. And he has never blinked or bailed. It's almost like when I have been at my worst, he moves in closest. When I close my eyes and I think about God, I used to, when I was growing up as a kid, think about God with a perpetual look of disappointment on his face toward me. Sort of God with a snarl. And that's all changed. I close my eyes and think about God, and if I can picture God with a face, it's God with a smile. Not because I'm some good guy, but because he's an amazingly gracious God who is eternally kind, will never leave me or forsake me. And that makes him the best friend I've ever had and the best friend I will ever have. I was having a conversation with one of my sons. I was sharing this a few Sundays ago, probably like 2 months ago now. And we were having this philosophical discussion about the existence of God. And, he believes in God, but there are times when he doubts. It's hard to believe in something or someone you've never seen, And he's a very logical, rational thinker. And so we were having this discussion, and I was sharing with him some philosophical reasons why it is rational to believe in the existence of God. But I said, at the end of the day, man, I believe in him because he is by far the best friend I have ever had. And he has made that so abundantly clear to me in so many different ways. So I know that is way more than 3 words, but that is a much fuller description of how God has truly impacted my life. And I could go on and on. I mean, you've heard me talk about my grandmother on my mom's side, who was an amazing gift to me. My dad, who was, the greatest man who ever lived, in my very biased opinion. And as much as I talk about them, my mom also, my grandfather, I could talk about God in this way till I die, because it's true. It's true. I don't know what else to say. I'm a ragamuffin. I'm not easy to love. Ask Stacie. I'm not an easy guy to love. I can be prickly and stubborn and rebellious and selfish and all sorts of things, very unlovable. And he has never for 1 second stopped loving me perfectly. Never, ever. My wife loves me well, but no one can love that well. No one can love as well as God loves.
Those were my 3 words, if I had to pick 3 words.
What?
Ceaseless, perfect love. That's how that's how he impacts my life. If I had to sum it all up and it's just ceaseless, perfect love.
Yeah, that's true.
That just meets everything in every way all the time.
Yeah, that's true.
So.
What else do we got here? We got any more?
No.
No? We got a bunch of comments, but no more questions.
This one is...
Well, we have 6 minutes.
We were going to answer that one. But...
Okay. I'll answer that one.
Okay.
This is from Dennis.
Yeah. Dennis asks, Tullian, would you consider writing another book? And if so, what would you write about?
Read the PS.
P.S. I'll buy it.
Well, thank you, Dennis. Oh boy, that's a big question. The short answer is yes. I am in the process of writing another book. This is the first time that I have embarked on writing a book without a publisher at this point. I've written 7 books, and all 7 books that I've written were the result of a publisher first coming to me and asking me to write a book, and then me writing a book. So there was a contract and then a book. This time there'll be a book with no contract. And there are a variety of different ways that it can get published if a publisher doesn't want to publish it. If I could go on and on about the Christian publishing industry, but I know it well. I've been around it my entire life because my family, my mom, my dad, my grandparents, my aunts and uncles have all written books. And so I've been around the Christian publishing industry my entire life. I've written books. There haven't been too many publishers that want to touch me with a 10-foot pole after my crash and burn in 2015. I, in their minds, am a liability because I would be kind of a lightning rod in their minds. I have some thoughts about that I will not share.
You're trying to bring out the devil
No,
in me?
no, hold on. So there's some things about that I find absolutely ridiculous. However, that's not going to stop me from writing. And the book that I am currently writing is tentatively titled Disgraced. And the subtitle is Good News for People Who Have Failed. And it will retell my story, specifically over the last 6 years. It won't be an autobiography, so to speak. It will be a book about the way God's relentless grace constantly comes after running people, and it will be autobiographically illustrated. So pray for that for 2 things. One, undertaking the writing of a book is a massive, massive undertaking. I find preaching much easier than writing. I like to write, but it's much more tedious to me. And so it's hard work, and it requires a lot of alone time, sitting still time, quiet time, thinking time, crafting time. So pray for that, but also pray that, what I write will see the light of day because a publisher will see it and say, we want to publish it. And if there are other options, if a traditional publisher doesn't want to do it. So yes, I do believe that writing is still very much a part of what God's called me to do. I've done it the last 6 years, just not in book form. I've done it in articles and blog posts and Facebook posts and stuff like that. So I'm constantly writing, and now I'm writing a sermon every week. So I'm constantly writing, but in terms of putting it in the form of a book, it's coming. It's coming. And Dennis, you, Stacie, my mother, my friend Daniel, I know now that there'll be at least 4 people who will buy this book.
My parents will probably buy it.
But they'll only buy 1 copy, so just a parent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I can probably get one of my cousins to buy it.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
Possibly.
Maybe.
That's all we got. Anything else? Anything you'd like to add?
I don't think so. I think I'm good.
You're good?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we will be right here in this auditorium at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time this upcoming Sunday for part 7 of Irreligious. If you've missed any of the Irreligious sermons, they are on our Spotify, our Sanctuary Spotify account. So if you just go to Spotify, if you have Spotify, and just look up the Sanctuary Jupiter, you can find it. You can find them all there. iTunes, Facebook, YouTube, the Sanctuary YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed to the Sanctuary YouTube channel, by the way, please go and subscribe. My Facebook page, the Sanctuary Facebook page, everything that I am preaching and have preached over the last however many months is up and on those different platforms. So you can watch it there. But this week will be part 7. And I think I will do the parable of the prodigal son because that's the last part of Luke chapter 15. So I think I'm going to do that. But I'll make that decision on Friday.
Nice. I was going to say, if you really love the message that you hear at the sanctuary, one of the easiest ways you can share it with other people instead of trying to articulate it is to share it through Facebook. Share the sanctuary YouTube channel through Facebook or email. Copy the link in a text and send it to your friend or your loved one or your whoever. That's one of the easiest ways you can share and just trust that God will open their hearts and minds to maybe actually listen to a sermon or read a article that Tullian's written. If you send those, that's a very easy way to share the gospel with people when you don't really know what to say and you want it to speak for itself. So,
yeah, I agree with her. I agree. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
We will see you on Sunday morning, or you will see us on Sunday morning. And then we'll be back here next Tuesday night from 8 to 9 p.m. where we will discuss Irreligious Part 7. So have a good rest of the week. We will see you soon.
Night, night.